Get out the insurance cards, get out the co-pays. The office is open, my friends. Brought to you by DrRoto.com.
So let's get to it.
Bring the pain!
What's up, everybody? It's Heat Override, and I'm ready to bring the pain for you this week and Dr. Roto. If you haven't been over to the site, get over to Dr. Roto. Use code word WIN, get a percentage off of your subscription, and become our rich friend. Are you guys ready for it? Are you ready for another Ultra Contrarian show? As you can see, Steve couldn't make it today. He had a lot of plans. We changed up because I was supposed to go to a karate tournament today, the Christmas Kumite in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Unfortunately, there's a huge snowstorm and then ice storm coming through later. It's all freezing, dipping. So it's just not optimal to be traveling over 3 hours and then 3 hours back during that. So no tournament, and that's practically it until January 31st. So get a little time off, rest, work on some techniques, and do what we do. And speaking of techniques, you definitely want to check out the Juicebox Walker episode that I did with Julius Juicebox Walker from the UFC. He's going to be fighting February 7th. And UFC Fight Night, Vegas 113. We got Vegas 112 tonight. Of course, this is an NFL podcast, so we're going to be going over the DFS slates. I'll be giving out DFS plays. Now, Steve will be giving out his plays and the Fuego pick of the week in the subs-only Discord at Dr. Roto. A big reason why you want to get there. Also, at the end of this episode, you'll get my Ultra Contrarian lineups for both sites, and then you will get DFS Hero generated lineup at the end of the episode as well. So that way you get the computer's look, you get my look, you get to see where it goes. My stuff's already written down. As always, man, I'm ready for it today. This show is live. So if you feel like you want to talk, holler, maybe talk some game theory or whatnot while I'm on. I mean, it's Saturday. I want to go do some other things. I want to play some video games, people. I didn't even get to play any last week. So, and I'm ready to win a lot of money on UFC tonight. That's what we've been doing. So hopefully, what's up, Mallory? So I hope you're ready to win some money because that's what we do at drroto.com. That's why we have the right cure for all of your fantasy needs. Ooh, yeah. Let's get ready to bring the pain. What's up, NX? I'm not going to say everybody's full name. But as you know, normal stuff. What's up, Sunflower? How you doing? You know, this is a live show, so everybody popping in, having fun, getting ready to win some money, both on FanDuel and DraftKings. I kind of wanted to go a little crazier this week, a little more aggressive towards my lineup. Normally, I give out a cash game lineup, so I wanted to take a chance with it this week, and that's what I'm looking forward to, and hopefully all of you are on the train line with me, because, I mean, I threw in, so after I was done doing everything with the family, getting it done, and getting ready for some, good time in DJ Magic Mike's stream, I literally threw in a random basketball lineup, totally forgot to change it. That's why I don't play NBA DFS, and I literally took 7th place. So I won some money for tonight. And so that, for me, that's what I try to treat. I am doing good. We are getting a massive storm up here in Erie, Pennsylvania. So that's why we're not fighting today. But like I said, I wasn't going to fight anyway. I mean, it's this close to Christmas. I can't be dropping 150 for me to fight. But I definitely was going to have my daughter fight. That's because she loves it, man. We just love doing point fighting and doing the whole martial arts thing. That's just what we do. But all right, let's get to it. Let's get to the Ultra Contrarian show for Week 15 NFL DFS. Woo! All right, look, I wouldn't say this guy, and again, I'm not going off of his last. This is going off. I'm trying to bring it to fruition a fantasy seasonal win by recommending a tight end that is going to go with this quarterback. And you'll know the tight end the minute I say Shedeur Sanders. Again, this is not off of his crazy last game. This is off that he is $4,700 owned on DraftKings, or $4,700 on DraftKings, and 66% on FanDuel. I will pay that all day. Now on FanDuel, when I give you the Ultra Contrarian lineup, you will have $300 left over to actually move up to CJ Stroud if that's kind of where you want to go with that. Because as always, I try to make both lineups for FanDuel and DraftKings exactly the same. And I can do it exactly some weeks, and sometimes I can do it exact. I actually have some UFC lineups that actually worked on both sites. That's the first time I've ever seen that happen this whole year with the UFC DFS, at least on my side. So that being said, getting that 37.5 points, will he get that again? I don't know, because what I'm seeing going on right now is that they're going to Chicago. It's probably going to be cold, so everything's going to be underneath. So you already know the tight end's Harold Fannin Jr. And so, but we'll get there. We'll get to talk to that. On top of that, I just like his chance to shine right now. Being in Cleveland, this is when you have to shine. Northeastern teams have to be able to play in the cold, snow, and this is just another example of going, getting ready, going to Chicago and playing a great team. Now, their defense can definitely slow down the Bears. So I actually like Cleveland in this game, but at the same time, I am from the States, the United States. So where are you from, Sunflower World? What part in the world are you at? Because I know I got fans all over the place here at Dr. Roto, being on SiriusXM Fantasy, but also, just even my main podcast. A lot of people tune in to my Super Bowl betting show that I do with Danger. Also, for some reason, I had like almost 400 people from Germany listen to my Harrison Bucker. So can you guess it? I'm going to say the Sunflower State, right? What's the Sunflower State? Is that like Tennessee? I'm not so good on those kind of things. So y'all can all laugh at me right now. But when it comes to football, we all know it. I really needed to get into the Rams and Lions game for these lineups. I wanted that a part of the actual Ultra Contrarian lineup this week. And for me, that had to start going cheap in a couple places. And the first place that I went cheap with was, of course, quarterback Shedeur Sanders. However, I've been riding this guy for a long time, and I love that his price just stays at the same, and I will pay all day, all night long for Chase Brown, $6,700 on DraftKings, $7,100 on FanDuel. That's almost criminal on FanDuel. Like, are you kidding me? You're going to give me Chase Brown, 18, 20, 18, 8. Like, you're going to give me that every single time. Every single time, right? So I will pay that. I don't care about his ownership. I don't care about what it got. But when he got the 2 touchdowns, a couple weeks ago, like just the way he's been working it, that right there is separating these lineups from the rest, because I don't care. They are a little, I have to play some of the chalk, right? So that being said, let's talk about it. Let's talk about some chalk. Let's talk about that Ram. You see that shirt? You know how we doing it. Ram Nation, horns up. Woo! Let's go. Yeah, we about to sit the Detroit Lions down. And I know they always trying to come in our throats and try and freaking get David Montgomery and just keep running that ball. That ain't the same Rams team. We locked that run up now. You better hope that you can get that ball out to Gibbs, because once we start shaking Jared Goff, we're going to hurt that boy. And this, man, I'm ready for it. But everybody, a 55-point game, that's what the sport books are giving us. All right, so let's just take that game into consideration. Puka Nacua, I'm going all in. I know I'm paying up $8,700. DraftKings, $9,700. FanDuel, you will see how I was able to work him in, and I will explain those receivers when I get to them. But that being said, also, he is just, it's not that it gets that 2 touchdowns. It's the fact that he's like Chase Brown, except cost a lot more. But when he booms and gets that 38 points, that's when you really need to be on him. And right now, the Rams are going to be in a shootout with this game. They're, just like I said, with Gibbs coming out, Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to be trying to eat us up over the middle. That's why I also like Colby Parkinson in this game, too. And you all know that I have been riding Colby Parkinson for the last few weeks, too. And that's been one of my big keys, too. And especially last week, getting that touchdown finally. So, that for me is huge. That's what I'm trying to provide as a product from Dr. Roto to all of you. So And I can't wait till later, too. Like, before I move on, Dan and I, next year on the Fight Club of Pain, Dan is adding the soup can of the week section. He was writing it, but it's just easier for him to explain why. And then we can actually go back and forth off of it and how we like it. And it's funny because one of his former soup can winners, Neil Magny, is fighting tonight. And so I threw him in a lineup that I gave away on the Fight Club of Pain on Thursday with him because it was in dedication to my co-host, to what he calls himself the sidekick of the Fight Club of Pain. Ooh, yeah. But moving along, I already said it was Harold Fannin Jr. You know that. $4,000 on DraftKings. I never pay up, but in my seasonal league, I need to win this next week because I win this next week. I'm pretty sure this locks in the 7th or 8th year in a row that at worst case scenario, after I win this week, I have earned extra money and I will earn my entry fee into next year again. I have strained together 7 to 8 years. I had one of my hometown leagues broken this year when I had injury palooza happen, and there was no way I could actually recover from that until never recovered from it. And it just got bad. So we won't talk about that team. It's the worst team I've had in almost a decade in that league. But things happen. Sometimes you get caught with the injury bug, and that's just the way it is. 10-man league. You think there's people on the waiver wire, but it's not. Everybody mostly gets drafted, so a lot of those people are getting held. So that's where you can get a lot of that experience and that expertise in the Dr. Roto. Of course, the start and sit show tomorrow at Dr. Roto's Discord only. That is something you guys want to get. But Harold Fannin, if you know I'm saying no to Colby Parkinson in a shootout, then you know I am looking at Harold Fannin. I love the way, and now that I see that Njoku is going to be out, he's literally Sanders' number one target. And I'll take that for 4,000, 20%. But here's the thing. When people see me play a play, and I mentioned it on here, a lot of people don't play. Don't be surprised if you see Harold Fannin used under 15% on the big slates. And if that happens, that shows why being contrarian is the way to win that money. Yeah. All right. Look, everybody loves the Saints. I've talked about the Saints. I've talked about the Saints with Steve. I've talked about the Saints. I've seen Danger talking about the Saints in the subs only Discord when someone had a start-sit question and decided to go with the Saints for defense. This, for me, is just about that consistency, but sometimes that offense just puts it in a bad place. Get another tight end, Juwan Johnson, but I'm not worried about that. The Saints defense at 2,500 on DraftKings is usually a lot more than I like to pay for defense, but I will put that up to actually get it because if Carolina, and I know that Carolina has been playing well, they beat my Rams, messing with us is the number one team in the league, and that to me gives me pride. But on FanDuel, 3,200 is nice. Now, those are going to be the players that I like to build my teams around, and the defense that if you're going to pay down for defense that you're going to look at. Of course, I've mentioned CJ Stroud, and if you get to drroto.com, you can actually see our cheat sheet when that comes out, usually tomorrow morning, maybe tonight, depends on how the guys want to release it. That cheat sheet will show some of the other plays that not only Dr. Roto, all the other experts, and myself have, that also can be used as sauce. This is an ingredients, people. You get the any given entry show with Danger, and that's your single game entry. You get my cash game lineup. You get Doc, Willie, and Swami last night talking about the whole entire slate, and of course Doc, Danger, and whoever pops in on Wednesday. I think there was like 4 of them this Wednesday on the first look. You get that show too, and then of course everything else gets handled out. But you get a lot of options to put. If you sit there and you just watch all the free stuff and then you hit up the subs only Discord, boom, you're winning, man. You will win that money. And that's what we got. A lot of people that have already won some money for seasonal leagues and have made it out. So that's what we're aiming for. That's what we're trying to win some money. But since it's just me today, it's not going to be such a long show. So if anybody's got any comments or anything right now, go ahead, pop it up. We got what you got. But let me get over to DFS Hero. Again, code word DOC gets you 20% off their product. And under their DFS Hero, we're going to look at these people. They're already coming at me with questions. We're going to do, you're going to love this, You're going to love it. Let's get this lineup. This is going to be DraftKings first, right? So this is where I like to say my stuff's already written down, so I can't move. I can't redo my stuff. This is what shows all of you what the angles that I take and how different I like to be than the numbers, but then how in tune that when I do my research and the computer does the research, that the game tape practically matches up with the numbers, except for UFC. All right, let's get it. And we got your quarterback, Jackson Dart, Marks, McCaffrey. I did see him come up in the injury report, so watch that. Chase, Hensley, Nakua, Fannin, Barner, double tight end. Again, that's a big stack. Giants defense. Now, off of the Barner play, I've been a sole love in Barner. I would actually move to Colby Parkinson on that lineup because that, to me, gives me more exposure to the Rams. And, of course, the Bengals being able to have that big game. Tinsley, I like the Tinsley play, but I'm gonna be more of a Andre Iovasis fan this week, and also a Jack Beck kind of fan too. So those two guys being around, depending on the site, Beck was a little more expensive on FanDuel, and Iovasis was cheaper on DraftKings. So I used each one of those in kind of a move, or no, it was the other way around. It was Beck was cheaper on DraftKings, allowing me to do it. So you can already see what I kind of did here. So that right there gives you a DraftKings lineup. So get that together, people. All right, let's get to it. Let's get to the Ultra Contrarian Lineups. Ooh, yeah. Man, maybe I get froggy and I give out some UFC content, right? You guys want a UFC? You guys want a UFC lineup? Something like that? Something crazy? I got to get into some of those UFC drafts on DraftKings. I love those because, man, it's just you against two other people. Let's go. All right. On DraftKings, as you already probably know, Shedeur Sanders, Chase Brown, the macho pick of the week.
Ooh, yeah.
Saquon Barkley. And we're moving along. Puka Nacua, Jack Beck, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Yeah, I said it. I said I went for that game. I went for it all. We going down, right? Fannin, Willie Marks, and the New York Jets defense. I don't care. Jets, Jets. Jets, Jets. Maybe they'll get a touchdown again like last week. Whatever happens, happens. I'm going for that lineup. Maybe I wanted to go down to the Raiders. I did. But I couldn't do it with Saquon going against them. All right, let's get to the FanDuel lineup. We got Shedeur Sanders, Barkley, Chase Brown, Puka Nacua. We got Williams, Jameson Williams. I switched off of, I had to, price-wise, off of Amon-Ra St. Brown. Came down to Williams, Iovasis, Fannin, Marks. Here's where things got real tricky. So I had $1,600 in salary left over. So I went to move up from Iovasis, and I was getting up to Stephon Diggs. And I was like, I really don't want that. I don't want that. I'd rather take the chance at Iovasis at his price on FanDuel and then rather move up. And I like Sanders' spot anyway. Now, this lineup in the end had $300 left over. With that $300, you can get C.J. Stroud. But if you're going to go C.J. Stroud, then Williams, you're going to have to. I would recommend, because you already have Marks. So you have Stroud, Marks. You might also try to get Collins in. Maybe come off of the Texans defense a little bit. Go down to the Saints defense. That'll save you a little bit of money in both ways if you want to get up there. But that's what I was really getting. And then what I did with Marks, it kind of just went up into that next level region. I was like, just wasn't really, I didn't like it. So for once, I paid up for defense on this lineup. I went with the Texans to match with Marks. Because as you know, I've always talked with everybody about it. But with Flagle with Steve this year, I've always said I've always loved doing a defense and a running back because there's always that cliche. Defense gets the turnover. It's close to the end zone. Running play, touchdown. That's what I'm banking on with that. I've always banked on it for all of my time. So that being said, that's the kind of ideas that I'm going with this week for the Ultra Contrarian lineup. Now you can see that Marks, Fanning, and Nakua were all linked in. I do love the Jamar Chase. I have an actual Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase lineup as well too. Of course, I love that game because it's not just because they beat down the Ravens a few weeks ago in Baltimore. It's because Joe Burrow feels that he can still win this division. So he's going to go out there and gun. He's going to go out there and fight. And you've seen that last week in Buffalo in a snowstorm. He threw that ball everywhere. And that's what makes quarterbacks like Joe Burrow dangerous. So that's some action that I really like. I want to be in on that Baltimore game. Jackson's price is really, really low. So when I wanted to come up off of Sanders, it actually went to Jackson if I would have stayed down on the Saints defense. So that kind of get. I couldn't get to Amon-Ra St. Brown. So for me, it was like I was getting, if I went up from if I went up from Williams, it went to Chris Olave. I didn't like that. I just thought that lineup wasn't going to work for me as a better thing. So that is the actual game theory that I'm looking at. Of course, I know everybody's on the Rams and the Lions game. I mean, I am. I'm going to be watching it. We're all going to be watching it, right? And screaming our heads off because we want to score a lot of points. But I feel that each one of these picks, taking a solid piece from the Bengals game, being Chase Brown, and then in the FanDuel lineup, running it back with Iavasis and trying to take that point, trying to get, maybe if I get lucky with a touchdown from Iavasis or 4 or 5 catches for 30, 40 yards, maybe that's all I get, 10 points. If I can get 30 points from Brown and Iavasis, then I know that I got it. And then I just need Marks to go do it. I just need the Texans to do exactly what they do. Play defense, run Woody Marks, and get it done. And then, of course, as the Barbrader, we got the horse, Barkley, and you got your action with Nakua on both lineups, and, of course, St. Brown and Williams. And then you just get Beck randomly. But believe me, if you play around a little bit, you could probably work in Ivasis on that, but I like the Beck roll as well. I hope everybody has a great Saturday. I hope that you're ready to watch some UFC. Let's talk about that real quick, right? So, the Parlay of Pain has hit practically every single week. In the past month, the Parlay of Pain has lost 3 times with a perfect 5-0 with 2 weeks ago. And the last week was because Pantoja broke his arm. It was the Pantoja money line. So if Pantoja wins that fight, that would have been 5-0. I'd have been 2. So as a kind of thing to kind of interbreed how Bring the Pain is now an MMA/UFC solely based podcast, even though I got some other guys trying to work me right now, trying to go, hey, why don't you do the PFL event coming up? Ryzen's got a good event. Look, I got a lot on my plate with football too, and then the seasonal aspect. That could be something I can look into for once the UFC comes back and the NFL is gone after the Super Bowl, and we win a lot of you some money on both the DFS side and seasonal side as well. Also, so I want to give you out the Parlay of Pain. So the Parlay of Pain is a 5-leg round robin bet. You get these 5 bets, and this one's a little less. Last week's was a $21.50, so that was nice. Even with the missed leg, it went 4-1. I was able to retain 75% more money than I put in, so I consider that a win. So we're gonna go with the Fry fight, knocked out for both, -310. Your leg 2 is Aspelund, knockout in sub 4. Aspelund is -175, brings up the parlay to a +107. Magny fight, talked about that. Dan and I talked a lot about that fight. Distance, no. That's action on both fighters, of course, for all you people that don't really know the UFC betting. -150. That's at the time. This is at the time we did the Fight Club of Pain on Thursday, so these numbers may have moved. We're going to go with the Buchecha fight. Decision, no bet for Buchecha is a +104. Now, if it goes the distance, You get that bet, it's void. Now it's a 4-leg parlay. That brings it up to a plus 606 because that's a plus 104. That was an easy way I could find some good money in that and just be able to bail and still get that payout because they don't actually watch the UFC as much. So sometimes you can slip on getting a full payout without actually having one of the lines just go void. Whatever you want to call that. All right, we're going to go the Almeida fight. You already know Oak's going to light this dude up. But if it doesn't happen, I got the distance. No, negative 260 for a plus 878, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to take, so when you round robin this, you're going to take the round robin and you're going to apply 25% to each leg. 25, 25, 25, 25. So if you're putting, let's say you're going to make 10 bets, this is going to be a total of 26 bets, including the 5-leg parlay being the 26th bet, right? So you're probably going to want to put, if you're going to do 250, I would probably bet, if you're making one $10 bet, put 250 on the 5 line, and then take the next 250 and then divide it out between the 10 2 lines, the 10 3 lines, and then the 5 4 lines. When you add all that together, so that's what you do. You just make the top 250, whatever way. If you're doing it with $100, do it that way. Once you see how much money you're going to make, regardless of the 5-leg being the 878, and when a lot of this hits, you're going to be our witch friend. Take a little bit of that money, go to Dr. Roto, use code ROTOWIN, and get that. Before I get out of here, I do want to say shout out to W Energy for being a sponsor of Bring the Pain and the Fight Club of Pain. This Monday, I'm actually going to try it. I actually had some today. I got my first dose, which is this. It's the Japanese yuzu. It's supposed to be really good. It tastes like practically the citrus from Gatorade, but like the light version. So I like that. I like my stuff watered down. I don't like always the thing. So on Monday, I'm going to hit this up. I'm going to get it. I'll be able to give the results. I love this being a point fighter. I don't need the edge, but what I like is that when I can take in less fluids at the time, but still perform over that amount of time, if that makes sense. For people that don't fight, I understand that you might not know that, but with me, I have a lot of stamina, so I'd rather my body be fed the entire time rather than have to refuel with water during that entire time because I sweat so much out at the beginning because apparently I'm a swing. So that's how it is. That's what allows me, the fight theory, to come up with a lot of these plays for the parlay of pain. I hope a lot of you, like that. Maybe that's an early Christmas present or whatnot, or happy holiday kind of thing for anybody, or just a straight up free gift that gets you. But if that gets you and you could get some money, again, this has been one of the staples at Dr. Roto on drroto.com behind the paywall. That's why I stress that sometimes the being a part of the Discord is great. You get some of my bets, you get all that stuff, but being on the payroll, having access to the 5-tastic picks and my UFC articles, you can always see, you can read my UFC rankings for free on our blogs, and you know where I'm going because I mention it. That's just what I do. I'm a story writer. All right, everybody. Thank you for your time. I want to thank you for everybody. If you don't tune back in, do know that the Fight Club of Pain will be doing a best of show next week. Even though there's no UFC, we'll probably sprinkle in a couple other shows. Maybe Dan comes on the review show next week. There's so much wide open, but one thing you will always have is the Ultra Contrarian show all the way to the Super Bowl. That is always be the commitment that we as a staff at Dr. Roto and Dr. Roto himself always want to make sure is available to all of you. Have a great day, everybody, and always remember to bring the pain! Ooh, yeah!
Thanks for stopping by the office. Get your fantasy prescription by subscribing to the channel and checking out drroto.com. Until the next visit, be well and take care.